Welcome to Ink to Gold, a Pages of Possibilities podcast. I'm discussing Steve Black's article, The Uncomfortable Truth About Why Your Marketing is Failing.
And it is a deeply uncomfortable truth, really.
Oh, absolutely, because you are likely spending, 90% of your marketing energy trying to fix the one thing that isn't actually broken, which is your words.
Right.
And I want to speak directly to you right now, whether you are an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, a freelancer, or a content creator.
You know exactly who you are.
Yeah, because you are currently putting just this high-octane effort into your business. I mean, you agonize over brand voice guidelines.
You A/B test the phrasing on your landing page.
Exactly. You change the font, you swap out the stock photos, you run your copy through an AI tool for the 20th time.
Just relentlessly.
Right. You schedule social media posts with just this punishing consistency. And yet, after all of that heavy lifting, what are you actually getting?
Zero gravity results.
Total silence.
Wow.
It feels like you were literally shouting into an absolute void.
It does. And, the natural instinct when faced with that void is to assume the void simply didn't hear you clearly enough.
Right. Like you just weren't loud enough.
Exactly. You convince yourself that, well, if you just swap out an adjective or if you just tighten up the hook,
Just one more edit.
yeah, if you run your copy through one more editing pass, the floodgates will finally open. But Steve's article really shatters that illusion completely.
It really does.
He argues that your words are not the problem at all. Your target is.
Which is a massive, uncomfortable paradigm shift.
Huge.
We spend so much time obsessed with the mechanics of copywriting. We treat eloquent phrasing like it's some sort of magic spell that just forces people to buy.
Like an incantation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if Steve is right, the gap between our high-octane effort and our actual results isn't a lack of eloquence. It is a profound lack of focus.
It's all about focus.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's get right into a direct, teaching-focused discussion on what is actually breaking your marketing behind the scenes, and crucially, what practical steps you must take to fix it today.
So the concept Steve introduces here that really anchors this entire problem is what he calls the messaging mask.
The messaging mask, yeah.
When a marketing campaign falls flat, almost every entrepreneur, universally, defaults to blaming the copy.
Always.
They look at the analytics, they see the dismal conversion rate on a landing page, and the immediate diagnosis is always, oh, my words are wrong, my headline wasn't catchy enough.
Right, I see this everywhere. A business owner refreshes their analytics, realizes nobody clicked, and they instantly jump into their website builder.
To tinker with things.
Exactly, to change the call to action button from, submit to get started.
Yes.
They genuinely think that tiny semantic tweak is going to trigger a tidal wave of sales. But why is that our immediate default? Why do we attack the adjectives instead of questioning the underlying strategy?
Well, because language feels entirely manageable. If we look at the psychology of how we work, we are biologically wired to seek the path of least resistance.
Sure.
Logging into your website and rewriting a single headline takes, maybe 5 seconds?
Yeah, barely any time at all.
And when you hit publish, you get an immediate dopamine hit. Your brain registers that as a completed task, so you feel incredibly productive.
But redefining your entire audience.
Exactly. Admitting that your target market is fundamentally flawed, that requires a massive, really uncomfortable structural overhaul.
It's terrifying.
It is. We gravitate toward fixing the message because it allows us to hide. It lets us completely avoid the strategic discomfort of exclusion.
So we stay incredibly busy rearranging those adjectives.
Right, to avoid the heavy emotional lifting of narrowing our field of vision.
It's exactly like repainting the walls of a house when the foundation is actively sinking into the mud.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Right. You are standing in the living room, you're meticulously taping off the baseboards, you're agonizing over whether to use eggshell or Navajo white.
And you feel like you are doing vital work.
Exactly, you're sweating, you're putting in the hours, but it doesn't change the fact that the floor is tilting at a 15-degree angle.
The paint job doesn't fix the core structure.
It doesn't. So what does this all mean for the business owner staring at a landing page that isn't converting?
The reality is that most marketing failure is actually a targeting problem, masquerading as a messaging problem.
Masquerading as a messaging problem. Wow.
Yeah, you are wearing the messaging mask. You aren't failing because your copywriting is weak or, because you didn't use the right psychological triggers in your text.
So why are you failing?
You are failing because you haven't made the cold, hard decision to stop speaking to a specific group of people.
That dopamine hit from tweaking a headline is exactly why business owners freeze up when they have to actually define their target in real time.
Completely.
Take Steve's example of B&I networking meetings. We've all seen this dynamic, right?
Oh, yes. The 60-second pitch.
Right. Someone stands up for their pitch, looks around a room full of professionals, and says, "A good referral for me is anyone who needs my services."
And it's an immediate eye glaze for the whole room.
It really is. Everyone just tunes out.
Because it is the ultimate marketing trap.
Yeah.
When you ask a room for anyone, the cognitive load you place on your audience is literally insurmountable.
Human memory just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. I don't have a mental file folder in my brain labeled anyone.
Right.
If you ask me for an introduction to anyone who needs graphic design, my brain goes entirely blank.
But if you ask for something specific,
If you ask me for an introduction to independent dental practices looking to rebrand, I immediately picture Dr. Smith down the street.
we know this intellectually, yet we still default to asking for anyone.
Because there is a seductive psychological safety in being general. You feel like you're keeping your net wide.
But a net made of smoke catches nothing. But wait, look at this from the perspective of a terrified freelancer whose revenue is dipping.
Okay, let's look at that.
I get the theory, but if I'm just starting out, doesn't narrowing my audience mean I am intentionally rejecting paying clients? Isn't that financial suicide?
It is an entirely rational fear. I hear it all the time. But Steve's logic completely dismantles the mechanics of how a transaction actually happens.
How so?
Well, you have to dissect the customer journey. People do not buy just because they technically fit into a broad demographic category.
Right.
They don't hand over their credit card because they are part of anyone. They buy because they feel profoundly understood.
Understood. Yeah.
Resonance, that intense emotional trigger that actually precedes a purchase, requires a highly specific frequency.
It's like striking a tuning fork, actually.
Oh, I like that.
If your message is just a generic, heavy lump of metal representing everyone, you strike it and it just goes thud.
It vibrates poorly at every frequency.
Right. But if you shave it down, if you intentionally exclude parts of the metal, it rings at one specific piercing frequency that can shatter the glass across the room.
The friction of exclusion creates the resonance. That is a brilliant way to visualize it.
Thanks. But it feels so risky to shave off that metal.
It feels risky, yes. But if you broadcast generic static, nobody listens. Avoiding specific choices because it feels like a financial risk is actually the greatest risk of all.
Because you just blend in.
It guarantees you will be ignored completely. Without the friction of a highly specific choice, your marketing lacks the weight required to make any impact at all.
You think you're protecting your revenue by keeping your options open?
But you are actually ensuring that no one ever feels that immediate visceral connection to your offer. And let's look at the financial suicide aspect you mentioned.
Yeah, let's talk about the money.
When you are a generalist, the only differentiator you have is price. If you do marketing for anyone, you become a commodity, and clients will just hire the cheapest option.
That's a race to the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you do marketing exclusively for boutique fitness studios opening their second location, you are no longer a commodity.
You are an expert.
You're an expert. Experts don't compete on price, they compete on value.
Wow. Vague never converts because a message meant for everyone is, by definition, a message for no one.
Period.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the disease here, this fatal comfort of anyone. Let's shift the conversation entirely toward what to actually do.
Right, the execution.
How do we actually execute this shift? Steve writes that specificity is a violent act of courage.
It's a great phrase.
I love that phrasing so much. Violent act of courage. It acknowledges the emotional toll of making these decisions.
It is strong language, but it's completely accurate because the internal resistance you will face when doing this is staggering.
It really is.
There is a massive psychological chasm between thinking about your audience and writing down exactly who they are.
Thinking versus writing.
Right. While your thoughts stay in the safe, nebulous clouds of potential, everything is fine. But writing forces reality.
Because in your head, you can hold entirely contradictory ideas.
All day long. You can tell yourself, oh, I want to serve high-end, established corporate clients, but I also want to help scrappy, zero-budget startups.
Which makes no sense strategically.
None. But the act of writing forces a level of precision that general contradictory thoughts simply cannot survive.
I wonder if the physical act of writing changes this because it creates a permanent record. Like when I think about it, it makes me think of doing a business budget.
Oh yeah, the budget analogy is perfect here.
Because as long as the budget is just floating around in your head, you feel totally safe. You fudge the numbers mentally.
You justify things.
Right. You tell yourself, oh, I'll probably make this much next month, and my software subscriptions aren't really that expensive.
You maintain this comfortable, fuzzy illusion of profitability.
Exactly. But the second you open a physical ledger and write down your actual income versus your actual expenses, it forces cold, hard accountability.
You cannot hide from the math once the ink is on the paper.
Is that why the illusion of serving everyone shatters?
Exactly. Writing it down forces you to commit, and more importantly, it forces you to intentionally exclude people.
And that is the part that feels violent.
It feels like you are purposefully shrinking your business. It is almost a grieving process for the maybe clients.
Maybe clients.
We fall in love with the sheer total addressable market. But 100% of a massive market that ignores you is worth $0.
Right.
10% of a tiny market that trusts you is a thriving business. This is the crucial expansion shift that Steve wants us to understand.
That narrowing of focus is actually the only path to true expansion.
Yes.
So you aren't actually losing customers. You are just finally becoming visible to the ones who matter.
Precisely. By having the courage to choose a specific segment, you allow your work to resonate deeply enough to prompt action.
You have to trade the illusion of a massive, indifferent audience for the highly profitable reality of a smaller, deeply engaged one.
That's the trade-off.
Okay, so we need to narrow our focus, and we need to write it down. Let's highlight Steve's specific method for achieving this clarity.
He has a very clear method.
Yeah, he doesn't just give you the theory and say, good luck. He gives you a very specific tool. He advocates for using a physical journal as your primary diagnostic tool.
A physical journal, yes.
And this is where we have to look at the mechanics of how we work. Here's where it gets really interesting. Why a journal? Why not a whiteboard, a spreadsheet, or one of those complex digital marketing templates you fill out online?
Well, this gets into the cognitive mechanics of how our brains process different types of writing.
Okay.
There is a profound difference between website writing and journal writing.
What do you mean?
When you are typing on a screen or, filling out a digital marketing template, you are triggering the publishing part of your brain.
Right, you're projecting.
Subconsciously, you are performing. You are acutely aware of an external audience. You start trying to sound professional, capable, and most importantly, you start trying to sell.
You put your marketer hat on.
Yeah.
You start using buzzwords like synergy and optimization instead of just talking like a human being.
Exactly. That marketer filter completely blocks the radical honesty required to fix a broken targeting strategy.
And a journal changes that.
A physical journal bypasses that filter entirely. It removes the performance aspect of marketing. It is a private, tactile space.
Just you and the paper.
Right? And there's actual neuroscience behind this.
Yeah.
Typing is fast. It allows your brain to stay in a superficial, reactive state.
Handwriting is slow.
It forces your brain to slow down and process the emotional weight of the words. When you physically write, "I'm exhausted by clients who constantly haggle over my rates," you feel the truth of that statement in a way you don't when you just backspace a typo on a screen.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense.
You cannot find this necessary level of specificity while you are performing for an audience. In a journal, you are forced to be raw and honest.
It strips away all the marketing theory you've read, all the best practices.
And forces an assessment that is grounded entirely in the raw reality of your actual expertise.
So let's explicitly outline what you, the listener, need to do in your journal today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today.
Get the pen out today.
You need to open a blank page and strip away all the marketing theory. Assess the reality of your expertise. You need to write down who you actually serve.
Not who you could serve.
Yeah.
Who you actually serve.
Right. Write down who your favorite clients are, the ones who don't drain your energy, the ones who actually listen to your advice, and the ones who get the absolute best results from your work.
The ones you genuinely look forward to talking to.
Yes. And then write down why you do your best work for them specifically. And you must do this without worrying about who is listening, because no one is.
It's just you, the pen, and the page.
That is the core practice.
The journal is the only place where you can safely admit, you know what, I actually don't like working with beginners. Or, I really only want to consult for businesses doing over $1 million in revenue without feeling the immediate pressure of public judgment.
It is a space to be utterly ruthless about your preferences.
It is a space to be ruthless. And as we synthesize this, it all comes down to what Steve calls the resolve to be seen.
The resolve to be seen.
Effective marketing isn't about finding better words. It is about having the resolve to be seen by the right people.
And accepting the necessary trade-off that you will not be seen by everyone else.
You must trade the safety of being ignored by everyone for the risk of being loved by a few.
Which is a real risk.
And make no mistake, it is a risk. When you are highly specific, someone might land on your website and say, no, this isn't for me.
But that's a good thing.
It's a great thing. That no is the exact friction required to get a resounding immediate yes from your ideal client.
Which brings us to Steve's ultimate lethal journaling prompt. If you write nothing else down from this entire discussion, write this single question down and answer it with brutal honesty.
This is the one that changes everything.
Here is the question. Who are you currently afraid to exclude?
That question cuts right through the messaging mask.
Who are you currently afraid to exclude?
Because your honest answer to that exact question is the very reason your marketing is failing right now. Think about it.
Yeah.
The people you are afraid to exclude are the exact ones who are diluting your message. They are the reason your copy is vague. They are the reason you are blending in with your competitors.
You are twisting your words into pretzels trying to accommodate them.
And the worst part is, if you accidentally attract them because your copy is too broad, they become nightmare clients.
Oh, the worst.
They demand services outside your core competency, they are never satisfied, and they drain the energy you should be giving to your ideal clients.
So recognizing exactly who they are is the only key that will actually fix your targeting.
You have to stop evaluating your copy and start excluding your distractions.
Stop evaluating your copy and start excluding your distractions. That is the absolute bottom line of Steve's article.
It really is.
So, I want to leave you with one last thought to explore on your own, building directly on what we've discussed today. What happens to your business when you finally stop spreading your energy ridiculously thin, trying to be everything to everyone?
Imagine that.
What happens when you take all that high-octane effort and channel it into a laser-focused frequency that your ideal client simply cannot ignore? Imagine the sheer momentum, the massive reduction in friction when you finally speak only to the people who are already desperate to hear from you. That's the practice. Try it this week and see what happens. Subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop, and visit pagespossibilities.com for more journaling practices designed for entrepreneurs. Link to the full article is in the description.